this was a first practice, right? I mean, we've seen first practices when you make notes on everything, but really it's a first practice. Is that sort of how this one felt?
Yeah, it was a little slow. They can only go for 90 minutes right now, and they can add 15 minutes each day. So about the first hour was walk through stuff, one-on-ones, and you're able to glean a little bit of information from that. But there was a real short team period. Each quarterback got about 5 passes, and it was bad for the offense all the way around. Drew Brees got sacked 3 times. Cam Jordan had 2 of them. So the defense looked really good. But the offense still has some catching up to do, and that's usually how it is in the start of camp. And we might even see that going into the season just because of the way this offseason is. So not a surprise how things played out so far, but it was good to get a first look at the team on the field.
Well, let's talk about a couple of guys individually. From Sean Payton's interview, what stuck out the most was the way he talked about Jameis Winston. And you said that yesterday. His tone of voice changed when he talked about Jameis. His glowing review sure seemed genuine. Agreed?
Yeah, we saw some of that today during the one-on-one periods. When he was out there, you could hear him. He was bringing in energy, and players were responding to it. There was one rep where Chauncey Gardner-Johnson got a really good jam on the receiver, and Jameis started screaming, hey, my offensive line's really good. They keep the play going, and he hits the pass down the field. Now, it's a win for the defense, but just watching him and the way he carries himself, I thought that was a big win for Winston, and that was the one moment really of the whole day from him that stood out to me.
Talk about the punter. The Saints brought in a backup punter, was certainly a lot of us didn't expect with limited roster spots. Clearly, this guy has some ability, or he wouldn't be the one guy you bring in, right?
Yeah, look, this isn't a day one story that's going to move the needle, but there's an argument to be made that he was one of the best players on the field today. And just given the curiosity of keeping Blake Gillikin on the team while Thomas Morstead's here, after they had to cut down to 80 guys, that was the one guy on the list you looked and you were like, what's going on here? And then today he comes out, he handled all the punts, and it was a phenomenal standout period. He hung some punts 4.9 seconds. 2 were downed within the 5-yard line. You see why he's here now. And in a weird year, maybe you keep him just on the practice squad in case of emergency. But the fact that he's here, I think it says something about his ability at least. So the team's intrigued. We saw it today. Now finally makes a little bit of sense.
Well said. P.J. Williams, big day. Look, a guy who's certainly he's on the team, but a guy fighting for playing time, and the way you get playing time is by making plays.
Well, they found out last year how good he is at playing safety when Marcus Williams was hurt, and he filled in that role, and he did a really good job there. And then today, out there at practice, he's playing safety again. He forced a fumble on a pass underneath, crashed down on it. We know his tackling ability is really, really good. We saw the coverage ability in space. Today there was a pass to rookie Juwan Johnson, tipped off his fingertips from Winston. PJ's right there to make the interception. They talked this offseason about positionless football. He's a guy that can play outside, play in the slot, play safety. So while he might not be outstanding at any one thing, he's really good and solid at a lot of different things, and that showed up today in the way he was able to make plays.
Did he make both of those plays, the forced fumble and the interception that Sean Payton mentioned? Did he make both of those while playing safety?
Both of them were at safety. They were about 3 plays apart. The forced fumble was maybe a little bit late in the action. Dwayne Washington caught a curl over the middle. PJ came down. I had already put my head down to start my note, but Sean gave him credit for it, so we'll give him the fumble.
I saw that in your tweet. Laugh. Was there anybody else that stood out? I know Sean Payton meant, because he was asked, he mentioned that Zach Bond was doing well, but there's anybody else that you made notes, this guy looked good, and anybody else that stood out for you?
Yeah, Emmanuel Butler made some plays in one-on-ones, and he's a camp darling, and I think he's someone we got to keep a look at, for that third receiver spot. Benny Fowler moved really well, but you saw some of the chemistry stuff with him and Breeze. They just weren't on the same page, so it's going to be interesting to see how that develops. Marquez Callaway was really good on special teams. He had a few plays as a gunner, and look, for a guy like him, that's how you're going to make the team, so to get that early momentum. But, it was just kind of a really short, truncated practice. David Onyemata looked really good rushing the passer. I mentioned Cam Jordan earlier in the segment. So, there are a lot of little highlights. Really, from here, it's about how you stack them. But a handful of guys are off to a good start. Defense overall, though, I would give them the gold star for the day. And the offense, I think, is going to have a pretty tough day when they review the film.
Last thing, and this is more about what Sean Payton said than what you saw. He said he's going to rotate McCoy and Ruiz every couple of days. That's sort of what we expect. We heard Ramczyk say it's possible. It's within the realm of possibilities that Ruiz could be playing center. The fact that he's going to rotate him means they're at least thinking it might happen, right?
Yeah, they're going to give him a shot. He's going to get a chance to prove that he can do it at that position. I thought it was interesting that in the first padded practice, McCoy's out there and you aren't just seeing what Ruiz can do immediately to kind of set a baseline. So maybe McCoy has the inside track on it, and we'll see how it plays out. But maybe it really is just going to be a day-by-day rotation. In that comment, what caught my eyes, he said every couple days we'll get Ruiz in there. So, like, does that mean 2 for McCoy, 1 for Ruiz? Like, is it an uphill battle? I think as the days go on, we'll get a better sense of how that's kind of playing out. But, you know, that line was rough today. Andrews Pete wasn't out there, and I think you saw some issues there. And a lot of the pressure was coming up the middle. So, you know, Ruiz might have had a rough day too. We'll kind of, you know, get a better sense of that based on some of the comments moving forward.